Hey guys, I got something pretty cool to show you. This is something I actually think you guys are really going to enjoy. This is the Hammer XT Slingshot combo. This sling bow is actually really impressive. I bought this thing thinking it was going to be sort of a gimmick, and it turns out, honestly, this thing's got lots of power behind it. You can hunt everything from small game to big game, but of course that depends on your local rules and regulations about what type of animals you can hunt with such an instrument. But really, let's just get into it. So here what we have is the Hammer XT Slingshot combo. This one comes, actually I don't believe it's the combo, just the Hammer Slingshot XT. Comes with the head here, which is removable. You can replace this with a different head, so that way you don't have to remove the whisker biscuit. That can be removed with just 2 screws at the back here. Or have to remove the regular band set for arrows. So that could be pretty useful if you plan on using this as your go-to slingshot for all types of slingshots. I do have another one that I would use for steel ball ammo. This thing has a whisker biscuit, as I mentioned. Comes with a wrist brace. So there's a wrist brace you have to mount yourself. And there's also the head, obviously the handle, and yeah, everything you see here, definitely it comes in the package along with a simple shot sticker and a band here for round ball projectiles. And you also have the tubes come in a bag. And you get a warning safety sheet with also some small troubleshooting sort of stuff inside. All the information that you need to actually assemble this hunting instrument, or target shooting instrument. I don't want to call it a weapon. I'm refraining from calling it a weapon. But everything you need to actually assemble this thing and get it working and functioning is on Simple Shot's website. So you can just take these, scan the QR codes with your phone, or even just type them in manually, and you can get all the information on how to set this thing up. It also comes with the mounting hardware to mount the regular ball ammo projectile sling bands, and it all comes in a bag. Totally thought it was going to come in a box. I don't know why. I mean, I saw that somewhere else on YouTube, but totally thought that'd be a box or something. But everything was just sort of thrown into a bag, and it sort of makes sense with the amount of different things you can get with this and different combos you can get with this slingshot. It sort of makes sense. Somebody could be getting everything, like all 4 of the different types of heads and the 2 types of bands and all that. So sort of makes sense that they wouldn't have specific packaging for every single one of those items. Anyway, that's that part, I guess, of what you get in the package. Let's go into the actual construction material, and it's made out of a polymer material. I'm not sure exactly what type, but it's a pretty tough polymer. Whisker biscuit, it looks like, again, another plastic. The only thing that's really metal on this would be the screws. The whisker biscuit has some aluminum, it looks like, just to hold all those fine, not fibers, I guess they're hairs, in place. And also the mounting system for the wrist brace, as well as the wrist brace. Wrist brace comes with this nylon adjustable strap. Personally, I'm not a fan of nylon Velcro straps. I find that they're loud, they're uncomfortable, and they look cheap, and they are cheap. They probably wouldn't break, probably do fine for its purpose, but it would have been nice to see something a little nicer. I mean, I don't know how much the cost would have gone up, but they could have probably put like a nice black stained leather buckle system even. That would have been nice. I might even make one myself at some point. And also another small gripe of mine is that the arrow band sort of like there's this, oh my goodness. Give me a second here. Alright, so this part right here, there's this thing right here. So I don't know what the heck you call that. It's like a tab you hold to pull back. That part there, it's a little like it's loose. It's loose, and so what I find is that sometimes they get put together, and then that ends up making it harder to load the arrows. I mean, it's not a big deal just to move them to the side, but it is definitely a little bit of a pet peeve. And also, when I got it, the one here was loose, so I had to retie the knot and then melt the string again. And then even then, I'm not able to get it as tight as the factory did on the other one. Again, I mean, that might just be my band set that's like that, because I'm sure these things are being mass produced when they are being made, and you know, it's probably hard to ensure that every single one is perfect working condition, because they're not going to mount every single one of these bands onto a slingshot, try, and then put them in the box. So they just make them, throw them in the box, and there's going to be some of them that aren't perfect. I don't really blame them for that. So that's basically that part there. It's a really cool thing. So I mean, there's not really much else to do. I should probably just talk about safety a bit. Maybe get in a bit more detail about hunting regulations. So again, check your local restrictions. Make sure you know you're not hunting illegally. You definitely just don't want to get a fine for using the wrong size. Or not the wrong size, but the wrong equipment. My area, if you're caught hunting with inadequate equipment, you can actually be charged, and all that equipment can be seized. Anything affiliated with it, so the arrows, the sling bow in this case, would be seized. Anything that I brought with me that's assisting me in my hunt, everything from the clothing on my back to the car I took to get there, could be seized. So I do have to be super careful, and I suggest you guys are very careful and be very careful. So yeah, another thing, just real quick before we get into the shooting video, I sort of want to take this as a moment to just sort of talk about these. These are these little clay balls. They're not very uniform, they're not exact sizes. But the reason why it's a good idea to have some of these is if you're doing target shooting outside. I just, you know, we don't need to be losing more metal and stuff like that and lead outdoors. I mean, it's also an expense, right? To lose those things, like a steel box of or steel ammo, for example, or even lead ammo. It's more expensive than these clay balls. Plus, the clay balls are environmentally friendly, and they're not as dangerous as the steel ones. Now, I know there's going to be some differences in the actual weight of the clay versus steel or lead, but if you're just doing target practice outside, just use the clay balls. You know, like, why not? They're not expensive. I think I paid about, it's like $12 or $14 for it's probably like twice as big of a bag. This bag was full when I bought it. It's probably about 1,000, maybe 500 actually. It's probably about 500. So 500 of these, $12, 14. Just don't, yeah. Anyway, so let's get into the shooting video. Right, so I'm here at my indoor range. Make sure that you're always being safe. You let other people know if there's an area of passage that people could walk through. Preferably you wouldn't have that. It would be in a corner in a basement or something, and you'd be able to prevent people from walking into the range when it's active. But I'm here in my indoor range. I've got a box set up a few feet away from me. This is probably only about 10, 14 feet between there, probably about 12 feet. And that box, I just put a little red dot or a little black dot into the center with a Sharpie marker. Preferably you'd have printable targets or even store-bought targets, and a proper range bag for arrows, and a range block, arrow block, right? Anyway, so that cardboard box, I packed it with cardboard and paper. You could even just use newspapers. I've heard that works. I have done that before, and it works pretty well. I like the cardboard because it prevents the penetration of the arrow going in further. It will wear out your field tips very quickly, and any other arrow that you throw into it. But being that field tips are not very expensive, I'm not too concerned about that. So what we're going to do here is we're going to shoot off an arrow. These are 100 grain arrows with 100 grain tips. They are 30-inch arrows, I believe 31 total length, and they're not bad. They're a little long, I've noticed, for this, but that also depends on your draw length. So make sure that you know your draw length. But it is always better to buy a little bit longer arrows when you first start out than too short, because if you get too short an arrow, you can get into an issue. And there's some quite graphic photographs online about people getting an arrow into their hand, like so. So be careful, be smart, and be safe. Now, without further ado, let's get a shot off. Loading it, I find, is a little bit interesting. I tend to hold it right from behind the quiver, or not the quiver, sorry, the fletching. And go ahead here, and there's no real orientation that matters when it comes to how you orientate the arrow. But I do know that if it's oriented like this, there's going to be less resistance on the top portion here of the like right there. You see there's a notch where you load the arrow into. There's going to be less resistance on the top one, which could throw off your shot a bit. So I flip it like this, so that way the resistance on the fletching is solid all the way through. Like it's going to be not yeah, the fletching won't be affected downrange. So when it comes to shooting, you're going to shoot it like a normal slingshot. You don't want to shoot it like a bow, because a bow, you would put your fingers on the bowstring and pull back. But there's not really the room in there, and if you do that, your fingers are going to get pinched against the arrow, and that could throw off your aim. So you want to shoot it like a slingshot. Or you could even use a release aid. So those are like these little trigger things you can put on the back. And I do recommend getting them, because when you shoot this thing a lot with the leather tab back here, your fingers tend to wear out very quickly. I've gotten red fingers here, almost blistering fingers, just from shooting this thing casually. Anyway, let's just shoot this thing. Aiming is like a normal slingshot. You could also use your arrow as reference. So that right there was a shot, one shot. Personally, I'm not very accurate with it yet. You did see I'm shaking quite a bit. I think that's more or less just because I don't quite have the strength to pull it back yet. It's not something that that most people are naturally gifted with that sort of strength to pull back and be accurate with a bow or even a sling bow at the beginning. There's different ways you can shoot it. I've seen videos of people shooting it like this, which I think is pretty cool, because you can see the arrow leaving the sling bow and just making its way to the target. So it's an interesting way to shoot it. There's also going to be the half or the side position, which if you ever watched Fowler's Makery and Mischief, you do know that that is the best way to learn how to shoot a slingshot. So I'm assuming that that's also a very good technique to learn when learning to shoot a sling bow. So you can use the slingshot the slingshot sort of grooves here as a reference point. There's even grooves actually on the whisker biscuit, which can also be used as a aiming point, or a point to sort of coordinate yourself with shooting downrange. So let's get another arrow in here, and it's by no means a fast reload. I'm sure there's ways to reload this thing very quickly, but I have yet to find one. So that's that. You can also shoot it at the sort of the 45 degrees. So instead of being all the way sideways or all the way upright, which I find both of these sort of uncomfortable, I like to do a 45 degree shot, because then I can also use the groove on the whisker biscuit, which is what I assume those are there for, is to be aiming references. And you can use those to line up with your target. So go ahead and we'll do that. Hey guys, so I'm just in the process of editing the video. I noticed I made a lot of mistakes. Definitely one of the big ones would have been 100 grain arrow. What the heck is that? But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Comment, rate, and subscribe. Hit that bell notification. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in the next one.